I gave up my entire future to save my brother's life, but did I destroy my own in the process? The moment I walked away from the contract, I signed the death warrant of my own potential, but I saved my brother's life. I'm Leo, 28 now, and I'm proud of my choice, but every single morning, the cold, gnawing emptiness reminds me of the future I deliberately murdered. 5 years ago, my life was a perfect, neatly charted trajectory. I was 23, a third-year medical student at a prestigious university, and on track to become a pediatric surgeon, the culmination of my own immense ambition and the hopes of my entire family. My life was defined by late nights studying anatomy and the adrenaline of the surgical theater. The counterpoint to my ordered existence was my younger brother, Finn, 21. Finn was the radiant chaos in our family, a brilliant, wild soul who chased music, art, and impulsive experiences. He wasn't reckless, but he was vulnerable. 2 years prior, he had developed a severe, debilitating addiction to prescription opioids following a sports injury. The addiction didn't just consume him, it consumed our parents' savings, their peace, and my emotional energy. My medical knowledge, the very thing that was supposed to save lives, only gave me a front row seat to his slow self-destruction. I was constantly torn between my demanding studies and the urgent, terrifying calls from Finn's various attempts at recovery. My professors warned me that my performance was slipping. My parents, exhausted and financially broken by endless rehab fees, looked to me, the responsible one, the one with the future, to somehow manage both the crisis and my ascent. The crisis peaked during my final year. Finn had relapsed dramatically and was facing a catastrophic health event. He needed intensive, long-term psychiatric and medical stabilization at a specialized, private clinic, a place where he had a real chance of recovery. The problem was the cost. $250,000 for the program, cash up front, and our family had nothing left. My opportunity arrived, glittering and monstrous, a week after the clinic delivered their final, non-negotiable price. I had been offered a 5-year contract with a hyper-elite research foundation run by a pharmaceutical billionaire. It was the kind of position PhDs fought decades for, guaranteed funding, limitless resources, and a starting salary that would make me wealthy overnight. The catch, delivered by the foundation's cold, smooth director, Dr. Voss, 58, was brutal. The contract was all-consuming and non-negotiable. 5 years of absolute dedication, working 60-hour weeks, with a severe restriction on travel and communication. They demanded complete, undivided focus, starting immediately. The terms of the contract made it clear. I would have no time, no emotional bandwidth, and no energy left over for family crises. If I signed, I would be a brilliant scientist, but I would be an absent brother and son. I had the contract in one hand, and the clinic's admission paperwork for Finn in the other. I did the math. The initial bonus and first 3 months of salary would cover Finn's entire program. I could save him, but signing meant dropping out of my final year of medical school, killing the residency track, and forfeiting the entire surgical future I had worked for since high school. It meant choosing instant financial salvation over my lifelong vocational dream. My parents, beaten down by 5 years of crisis, simply told me to do what was best for my future. They saw my potential, and they knew Finn's situation was a gaping financial and emotional wound that was destroying my life, too. They quietly hoped I would choose the career. I went to the hospital where Finn was barely stable. I looked at him, pale and weak, finally consenting to the help he needed, and I saw not a burden, but the beautiful, fragile spark of the brother I loved. I knew, with absolute, terrifying clarity, that if I chose the contract, I would have the money, but I would forever be a distant voice on the phone, watching him relapse again because I wasn't physically there to hold the line. What would you do? Sacrifice your entire career, your dream future, and your financial security to save your brother's life right now, or take the career, knowing the distance might jeopardize his fragile recovery? The choice was excruciating, but it was also the simplest I'd ever made. I signed the contract with the foundation, dropped out of medical school 2 days later, and paid Finn's bill in full. The impact was immediate and total. I packed up my life, moved to the foundation's sterile campus, and began the brutal work schedule. The money flowed instantly, a flood of cash that instantly stabilized my family and, crucially, secured Finn's admission. The sacrifice was palpable. The day I informed my dean I was dropping out, he looked at me with a mix of pity and fury, calling it the most idiotic, self-destructive decision he had ever witnessed. I traded the crisp white coat of a future surgeon for the anonymous, functional lab wear of a corporate scientist. I had the titles, the prestige, and the salary, but I had abandoned the mission. My life was suddenly brilliant, successful, and entirely misaligned. The worst part was the distance from Finn. I flew out, established him in the clinic, and then, for 5 years, I was forced into a distant supporting role. My rare, strictly scheduled phone calls were cheerful and brief. I poured money into his life, paying off debts, funding his new life post-rehab, but I couldn't pour my time into him. I was constantly aware that while the money saved his body, my absence prevented me from fully supporting his soul. I channeled the profound sense of loss into my work. I became a machine, producing breakthrough research at a pace that astounded Drive. Voss. I was awarded patents, published in major journals, and given massive bonuses. I became professionally untouchable, but every promotion, every milestone, felt like a cold, empty echo. I had achieved A-list success in a field I was only doing for the paycheck, not for the passion. I had become the thing I despised, a financially motivated genius, not a healer. Finn, thankfully, thrived. The clinic worked, and the long-term funding I provided allowed him to leave behind his old life. He rediscovered his passion for music, started a small, successful teaching studio, and found a quiet, genuine happiness. He was alive, sober, and building a future. My sacrifice had succeeded. Now, 5 years later, the contract is up, and I am free. I am 28, financially secure, and technically successful. I have enough money to buy a beautiful life. But I feel like a ghost haunting my own existence. I recently went to Finn's first public performance. He was playing guitar and singing his own heartfelt music, raw, authentic, and utterly alive. He was happy, truly free. After the show, he came over to me, and his eyes, clear and vibrant, were full of gratitude. He knew I had saved him. He knew the money was the key. He called me his savior. And standing there, basking in his genuine, pure happiness, I felt the sharp, agonizing twist of my own despair. I looked at him, the living, breathing proof of my sacrifice, and realized that while I had saved his life, I had not saved mine. I had the chance to become a surgeon, to heal, to touch, to directly save lives with my own 2 hands. That was my core identity, my calling. Now, I am a brilliant researcher who mostly optimizes profit margins for a pharmaceutical giant. The passion is gone, replaced by expertise and efficiency. I look at my hands, capable of so much, and realize they haven't touched a human patient in 5 years. I tried to go back. I contacted my old dean, begging to re-enter medical school. He was polite, but firm. The door was closed. The system doesn't forgive a 5-year gap and a dropped residency track. The career I sacrificed is now unattainable, a beautiful, perfect mirage on the horizon of my past. My brother lives a rich, fulfilling, passionate life because I gave up my entire future for him. He is alive because I willingly walked away from my destiny. And while I would make that same choice 1,000 times over, the emptiness remains. I am proud of the man he became, but I despise the man I was forced to become in the process, a man defined by a paycheck and professional success, not by vocation or genuine purpose. My soul is not free. It is perpetually caught between the joy of Finn's salvation and the haunting sorrow of my own abandoned identity. I saved him, but I destroyed the one thing that defined me. I am a hero in my family's story, but I am a tragedy in my own. If you were in my shoes, living a life of success that you hate, would you feel like a failure, or would the salvation of your loved one be enough to call it a victory? I am still searching for the answer.